I've been, oh, there you go. I can hear it now. I've been a member here at the temple for a few years. And now, as some of you may know, I'll be moving away to Colorado next month. And this is a happy and exciting transition for me, as I will be moving to join my fiance, Chris. Thus, this is also what seems like the end of a chapter in my spiritual path that has been supported and guided by my practice here and by the community here. So although it is happy and exciting, leaving behind the temple and this beautiful community is heartbreaking in a way. I started coming to the temple in the summer of 2014 after I had graduated from UNC and was starting a new job at New Hope Elementary. This temple and its community has seen me grow, thrive, commit, fail, recommit, question, and love. Here I have experienced being welcomed, loved, cared for, and accepted. I have experienced kindness, community, joy, and inspiration. And I didn't realize how much I needed a spiritual community until I came to the temple. I remember having that with my parents and their spiritual friends, and I lost that when I went away to college. I found it once more here among all of you, and you have loved me so well. And I am eternally thankful for it. I am thankful for every opportunity to sit alongside you, to meditate, to practice, and to strive for our own betterment and peace. And I have been inspired by the transformative work that we do here by simply sitting still. And what's more is that we share that with the children in our lives. And some of them are here today. That's awesome. And that's truly beautiful, and I believe that is what will transform the world and actualize peace. So in a way, this is farewell, or more like, see you later, alligator. Chris and I have already decided that we will be getting married here at the temple next spring, so you will see me again. And this temple will always be one of my spiritual homes. I know that no matter how far away I go or how long I stay away, that I will be welcomed back with open arms and open hearts. So that said, one practice that helps me stay in the moment and giving my every gift in every moment is to live each moment as if it were my last. I don't know when the day or time will come when I will lay this body aside. I may have a few years or I may have 100. As such, what follows is my final message to this beautiful temple community. In the Dharma talks that I've given in the past, I always try to frame my suggestions as invitations. So here's my invitation for today. Let's be uncompromising in our pursuit for great enlightenment in this lifetime. So I want you to think about what I just said, about be uncompromising in the pursuit of great enlightenment in this lifetime. What fears, worries, or concerns come up for you around that? What might keep you from making such a huge commitment? I want you to share with someone next to you. Yeah, I'll give you a minute. Go ahead. Find someone quickly. Let's take a moment to share out loud, just 2 or 3 people. Who would like to share out loud what comes up for you?
Can you repeat the question, what we're supposed to be contemplating?
So what comes up for you when I say be uncompromising in the pursuit of great enlightenment in this lifetime?
What keeps us from it?
What might keep you from making that commitment? Go ahead.
Lisa, Tiffany and I were talking, it comes to our current attachments and whether those would remain or no. So we would be moving into the known, into very much the unknown. The default human response in the face of the unknown is somewhat paranoid. In other words, there's fear. So it's the uncertainty of what lies on the path ahead.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone else like to share? Go ahead.
It's also overcoming habitual behavior that you're used to, replacing it with something else, because that's not something that I was doing that I was taught when I was 5 years old, 6 years old, 7, 8, 9. So I developed other habits. So it's making a commitment. It's kind of leaving that habitual behavior behind.
Okay. So, through the teachings of Wong Buddhism, we have been given the gift of a practice that can lead us to great enlightenment. The founding master Sotaesan at a dear friend's funeral shared this teaching. In the teachings of the Buddha of the past, he says that if one attains the great way that is free from birth and death, coming and going, and practices accordingly, the karmic retributions accumulated over many lives will be extinguished. The method of extinguishing them is as follows. If someone causes you suffering or loss, do not resent them or hate them deep in your heart. Instead, consider it a repayment of your past debt to that person. Settle your mind and do not confront him. When your turn comes to retaliate, just let it go. And then that karma will come to rest. Also, by knowing that realm in which birth and death, coming and going, as well as suffering and happiness, are all empty, let your mind rest there. In that realm, there will be neither birth, death, or karmic retributions. When you arrive at that state, you may say that the karmic retributions of birth and death are completely extinguished. When I read this, I hear the founding master speaking of forgiveness. I interpret his words as a lesson in letting go of what I perceive as offensive, disrespectful, rude, or unfair in the world. I interpret it as an invitation to surrender the need to be right about how things should be. To me, it is an invitation to be humble and disciplined in the face of distractions. And that this is the way to free ourselves from the heavy burden of karmic retribution so that we may live free and at peace in this lifetime. So that we may return to and stay in that realm that is empty and void. I would even say that this is a realm of pure innocence, where nothing has happened. No harm or suffering has ever occurred. And honestly, when put that way, I think, why would I want to return there? That sounds kind of boring. And yet, is it really an unfair trade-off? I give up my desire to retaliate, to harbor resentments, and in response, I am gifted with freedom from birth and death, suffering and happiness. But why would I want to give up happiness? Because in this existence of duality, of yin and yang, one cannot exist without the other. Thus, suffering and happiness go hand in hand, and to be free of one is to be free of both. So maybe there's something beyond either of those. In the Dharma discourses of Cardinal Master Chongsan, Sotaesan goes on to say, an ancient Zen master said that the even and constant mind is the way. Even, Pyong, means that there is no differentiation between high and low status, or between things and oneself. Constant, Sang, means annihilation of the gap between past and present, and the transition between being and non-being. This refers to none other than our own self-nature. And our self-nature is none other than the great way of the universe. Hence, if you can clearly comprehend just this truth of the even and the constant, you will be called one who has seen one's nature, and one who has mastered the way. However, in one's use of the mind, even if one has not yet fully awakened to this truth, one can put it into practice, this even and constant mind, according to the situation. Therefore, we must simultaneously inquire into this even and constant truth and apply well this even and constant mind. There are several examples and scenarios in the text, but Sote-san concludes, the practitioner who awakens to this truth of the even and constant will be able to achieve sublime dharma of liberation from birth and death, suffering and pleasures. When putting into operation the even and constant mind, one will be able to make manifest the conduct of the sages and saints. So if the challenge is in not resenting or hating and letting go and forgiving, then using the mind, the even mind, that perceives no distinction between things and oneself could be useful. I am you, and you are me. We are. Period. For some of us, it may be easier to forgive others, but not ourselves. And for some of us, we can forgive ourselves easily, but find it difficult to do so with others. In either scenario, removing the distinction between things and oneself will aid us. In forgiving myself, I am forgiving others. In letting go of another's perceived offenses, I am letting go of my own as well. So this week I put that into practice, and one of the first things that I noticed was my impulse for retaliation. For example, I was drying some laundry, and when I passed by the dryer later, I saw that my roommate had taken my clothes out so she could dry her own. And I noticed the instant flare-up of wanting to confront or find a way to retaliate. But given that the Dharma words were fresh in my mind, I noticed that that was the retaliation and confrontation that would continue the karmic cycle. I continue to find many examples throughout my day of opportunities to surrender my need to retaliate at school, with children, at home, and especially on the road. However, one of the biggest things that I noticed this week has also been that I am my own greatest opportunity for forgiveness. It's hard for me to talk about it because I worry about the consequences of sharing, but my relationship with my roommate in the past year has become cold and distant, whereas it used to be a close friendship. And this week I noticed how my mind took one text from her with a simple question, "Have you been home yet?" in a million different ways, but most powerfully in the direction of the thought, what did I do wrong now? And this revealed to me once more the guilt I've been carrying around, thinking that I am harming or inconveniencing her by simply existing in her space. Thus, where I've landed now is in the practice of forgiving myself. I choose to forgive myself for thinking that I am inconsiderate, rude, or selfish. I choose to forgive myself for leaving things incomplete or not meeting the goals I had set for myself at the beginning of the week. I choose to forgive myself for thinking that I'm an angry or strict teacher with my kindergartners, and I choose to forgive myself for it all. And of course, this isn't something that is easy, but it is worth practicing. Because on the other side is freedom, peace, and boundless eternal love. Considering a person, it could be yourself, that has caused you harm or suffering. And I ask that you keep this to something simple that has been bothering you today or this week. If you are starting to truly practice forgiveness and letting go, then this is not the space yet to take on any traumas you may have experienced in your life. Now let's close our eyes and breathe deeply. And listen to these words. Sotae-san said, "A person who understands the principle of rebirth after death knows that the birth and death of a physical body is no different than changing an article of clothing. Even though our physical body that is subject to such changes might die one day, that unchanging, ever bright, numinous consciousness lives forever and will again receive another body. Start to perceive that numinous consciousness in you. It's the part of you that is eternal and permanent. It's not your body or your emotions. It's behind all of that. It's beyond all of that. There's no real need to search for it. It's there. And it's the part of you that perceives no distinction between things and oneself. Keep breathing deeply. Now, using the even and constant mind, bring someone to mind that has seemingly caused you suffering or loss this week or today. And in your own way, surrender, let go, forgive whatever harms or sufferings you have experienced. It may help you to remember what was said earlier. Consider it a repayment of your past debt to that person. And now, it's as if nothing ever actually happened. Innocence arises once more. And remember that what you perceive to be your numinous consciousness is their numinous consciousness as well. They are you. You are them. We are. I am. When you're ready, open your eyes. To wrap up, I want to remind you of my original invitation. Be uncompromising in the pursuit of great enlightenment in this lifetime. Why would we postpone this great mission? What could be more important than breaking the cycle of life and death? So I say my farewells and see you laters, trusting that our paths have crossed for a greater purpose. You have served me in my path towards enlightenment, and vice versa. And you will forever have a place in my heart as my brothers and sisters on the path back home.